Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome back to another exhilarating episode of Two Wacky Pundits, Dr. D and Dr. A. So, what are we talking about today, guy?
Today we're going to talk about Charles Bukowski.
Alright, we mentioned him last time.
Charles Bukowski was a mean motherfucker. He all his life he had a hard knock life. He was on Skid Row many times.
You have to explain Skid Row.
He was skint.
Okay.
Skint many times. He had a very hard life. His father beat him up constantly when he was a kid. And he developed this kind of poetry to match his inner broken self.
Yeah.
So here we have a book, which a book of poetry, one of his many books of poetry. It's called "Play the Piano Drunk Like a Percussion Instrument Until the Fingers Begin to Bleed a Bit."
Oh, fantastic. I love it already. Okay.
I don't know how he came up with this title, but anyway, it really
works.
It works. So now I'm gonna read some excerpts from the poems because that's the only way you can get a taste of Bukowski. The souls of dead animals. After the slaughterhouse, there was a bar around the corner, and I sat in there and watched the sun go down through the window. A window that overlooked a lot full of tall, dry weeds. I never showered with the boys at the plant after work, so I smelled of sweat and blood. The smell of sweat lessens after a while, but the blood smell begins to fulminate and gain power. I smoked cigarettes and drank beer until I felt good enough to board the bus with the souls of all those dead animals riding with me. Heads would turn slightly, women would rise and move away from me. When I got off the bus, I only had a block to walk and one stairway up to my room, where I turned on my radio and light a cigarette. And nobody minded me at all. So this is the kind of poetry that Charles Bukowski writes. It's not it doesn't rhyme, it doesn't...
So basically...
It's prose in the form of poetry.
But the story goes that he knows that society gave him the finger.
He's an outcast.
And he's giving a bit back to him because especially in the last line he's saying when I turn on my radio and light a cigarette
and nobody
minded me at all. So basically, yeah. Alright. I'm liking it already. I need to start reading this guy.
He has a lot
Is he still alive? No.
No, he died in 1994 of leukemia.
Oh wow.
In the documentary Born Into This about Charles Bukowski's life, which is on the YouTube if you're interested.
Okay.
His wife talks about his death, and she says that his wife Linda, his last wife, talks about his death, and he said when he died, his face, which was so tensed up all his life and pockmarked, and became almost smooth like a baby. So death released him.
Well,
death released his pain.
Really, yeah.
It became smooth like a baby. Like his troubles were all over at that point.
Well,
I'm in love. This other poem's called. She's young, she said, but look at me. I have pretty ankles, and look at my wrists. I have pretty wrists. Oh my God! I thought it was all working, and now it's her again. Every time she phones, you go crazy. You told me it was over. You told me it was finished. Listen, I've lived long enough to become a good woman. Why do you need a bad woman? You need to be tortured, don't you? You think life is rotten if somebody treats you rotten. It all fits, doesn't it? Tell me, is that it? Do you want to be treated like a piece of shit? And my son was going to meet you. I told my son and I dropped all my lovers. I stood up in the cafe and screamed, I'm in love, and now you've made a fool of me. I'm sorry, I said. I'm really sorry. Hold me, she said. Would you please hold me? I've never been in one of these things before, I said, these love triangles. She got up and lit a cigarette. She was trembling all over. She paced up and down, wild and crazy. She had a small body. Her arms were thin, very thin. And when she screamed and started beating me, I held her wrists, and then I got hit through the eyes. Hatred, centuries deep and true. I was wrong and graceless and sick. All the things I had learned had been wasted. There was no living creature as foul as I, and all my poems were false.
Oh, but this is him talking or his wife?
No, this is him talking about one of his girlfriends.
Okay.
He had many girlfriends
Yeah.
who came practically to fuck him from all over the world.
All right. After he got famous,
After he got famous, of course.
not before.
In the movie that I was talking about earlier, there were even two Scandinavian girls sitting outside his porch once, and when they asked him, "Why are you waiting for Bukowski?" They told him to fuck him, of course.
Oh wow. Fair enough.
He was a mean bean fucking machine. $5.
$5. So this is the title of this poem.
Yes, I am dying of sadness and alcohol, he said to me over the bottle on a soft Thursday afternoon in an old hotel room by the train depot. I had, he went on, betrayed myself with belief, deluded myself with love, tricked myself with sex. The bottle is damned faithful, he said. The bottle will not lie. Meat is cut as roses are cut. Men die as dogs die. Love dies like dogs die, he said. Listen, Ronnie, I said, lend me $5. Love needs too much help, he said. Hate takes care of itself. Just $5, Ronnie. Hate contains truth. Beauty is a facade. I'll pay you back in a week. Stick with the torn. Stick with the bottle. Stick with the voices of old men in hotel rooms. I ain't had a decent meal, Ronnie, for a couple of days. Stick with the laughter and horror of death. Keep the butterfat out. Get lean. Get ready. Something in my gut, Ronnie. I'll be able to face it. To die alone and ready and unsurprised. That's the trick. Ronnie, listen. That majestic weeping you hear will not be for us. I suppose not, Ronnie. The lies of centuries, the lies of love, the lies of Socrates and Blake and Christ will be your bedmates and tombstones in a death that will never end. Ronnie, my poems came back from the New York Quarterly. That is why they weep without knowing. Is that what all this noise is? I said. My God, shit.
Fantastic for this guy. But the angst is there, huh?
It comes at you in waves.
It's really, you can feel it with every word.
He was in pain most of his life. He suffered from a lot of ailments.
I'm sure he had lots of mental issues as well.
The doctors told him he was going to die from drinking too much beer. That was in his 50s. He lived until his 70s.
Yeah.
And he always drank.
But, so, from what I remember from his biography, from what I learned, I know that he only became famous in his 40s. And this is after he had spent like 30 years working in a post office.
That's right.
Correct?
That's right.
And his first book or collection of poems is called The Post Office, yeah?
No, it's a novel. The Post Office
All right.
is a novel.
Okay, all right.
His first collection of poems, I don't know what this was called, but he has many of them.
And that's how he started.
Yes, that's how he started.
Okay.
He's actually a poetry guy. He was told to write novels because novels sold better than poetry. So,
true.
out of fear, he started writing novels.
Yeah.
Interviews, this one is called. Young men from the underground, newspapers, and small circulation magazines come more and more often to interview me. Their hair is long, they are thin, have tape recorders and arrive with much beer. Most of them manage to stay some hours and get intoxicated. If one of my girlfriends is around, I get her to do the talking. Go ahead, I say. Tell them the truth about me. Then they tell what they think is the truth. They paint me to resemble the idiot, which is true. Then I'm questioned. Why did you stop writing for 10 years? I don't know. How come you didn't get into the army? Crazy. Can you speak German? No. Who are your favorite modern writers? I don't know. I seldom see the interviews, although once one of the young men wrote back that my girlfriend had kissed him when I was in the bathroom. You got off easy, I wrote back. And by the way, forget that shit I told you about Dos Passos. Or was it Mailer? It's hot tonight and half the neighborhood is drunk. The other half is dead. If I have any advice about writing poetry, it's don't. I'm going to send out for some fried chicken.
Fantastic ending. Wow.
He just doesn't give a fuck.
Awesome,
He doesn't give a fuck.
Awesome. Really.
These poems can go on and on and on. Close Encounters of Another Kind, this one is called. This one is going to be the last one because there are plenty of them. Are we going to the movies or not? She asked him. All right, he said, let's go. I'm not going to put any panties on so you can finger fuck me in the dark, she said.
Okay.
Should we get buttered popcorn? He asked. Sure, she said. Leave your panties on, he said. What is it? She asked. I just want to watch the movies, he answered. Look, she said, I could go out on the street. There are 100 men out there who'd be delighted to have me. All right, he said, go ahead out there. I'll stay home and read the National Enquirer. You son of a bitch, she said. I'm trying to build a meaningful relationship. You can't build it with a hammer, he said. Are we going to the movies or not? She asked. All right, he said, let's go. At the corner of Western and Franklin, he put on the blinker to make his left turn, and the men in the oncoming lane speeded up, as if to cut him off. Brakes grabbed. There wasn't a crash, but there almost was one. He cursed at the men in the other car. The men cursed back. The man had another person in this car with him. It was his wife. They were going to the movies too.
So they met up.
They met up.
Fantastic. Fantastic, really.
It can be very depressing to read his poetry, but I really enjoy it.
It is true, but it's brutal, like what we said last time, you know.
Just punches you.
It's a good slap in the face, literally.
Bukowski had a hard knock life.
So yeah,
it's all reflected in his poetry.
I mean, and at the end of the day, people are scared to confront this stuff, and then when they start reading all these literally gems, so to speak, they kind of get uncomfortable, but at the same time they're happy that someone else managed to have the balls to write something like this,
yes,
and let it out. So
in fact, even after all these years,
that's why he got so famous.
His books are in their 30th printing.
Yeah.
So they're still selling like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Even on Amazon, on Kindle, their prices are very high.
So yeah,
$12 for a Kindle book is quite high.
Yeah, well. Did you show the title again? So we'll just double check. All right. So guys, if you
can't read the title,
expand your literary horizons, and you're not afraid of a little bit of profanity and so, but God knows what else. Charles Bukowski, guys.
All right.
Okay, so that's it for today. Join us for the next episode very soon, hopefully. Take care for now, guys.
May your God be with you.
Indeed. Bye.